What if I told you there is something so influential that it's quietly yet powerfully affecting every decision that you make every single day? It influences how you interpret what happens to you. It affects your ability to achieve your goals, and it determines your success and happiness. You would want to know what it is, right? In the previous lesson, we introduced you to our inner deceivers, which will block your ability to operate with unshakable self-determination. But there's more, a lot more. The true key to developing and maintaining unshakable self-determination starts at the very core of our individual beliefs about ourselves, our self-concept. More specifically, researchers call this our core self-evaluations. These are the deepest beliefs that we have about ourselves. And volumes of research have identified that there are 4 dimensions to our core self-evaluations, which we're going to explore over the next 4 lessons. Based on this powerful research and our extensive work with tens of thousands of people around the world, we know how impactful core self-evaluations are. They impact every aspect of your life, your work, your relationships, your views about the world, your hope, resilience, happiness, and your self-determination. So understanding this could be a total game changer for you. Using the initial research as our base, we've worked to understand what these look like in practice. My PhD research specifically looks at this construct. And we've developed and refined our own model that we call the 4 A's, which we'll take you through. The premise here is that you can shape your beliefs, your core self-evaluations, in ways that help you achieve success, regardless of where you start out in life. Your beliefs about yourself influence where you end up. These game-changing dimensions can be seen as being like the 4 legs of a table of self-determination. They each need to be equal in strength to form a solid foundation if you want to feel unshakable on your journey. If any one of them is missing or in a weakened state, you'll have a wobbly table and wobbly self-determination. So let's look at these 4 legs, the 4 core components of our core self-evaluations, what we call the 4 A's. The first leg is acceptance. Do you feel worthy? This reflects whether we accept who we are and our beliefs about our overall worth as a person. The second leg is agency. Do you believe that you succeed at tasks? This reflects whether we believe that we have the ability to set and achieve our goals. The third leg is autonomy. Do you feel that you have choices in life, that life's events are within your control? Autonomy is taking ownership of your life and a belief that you can influence your outcomes. The fourth leg is adaptability. Are you able to cope with life's challenges? Specifically, this is the capacity to adapt and cope with the ups and downs of life. When these 4 dimensions converge, they form our core self-evaluations, our self-concept. And our self-concept shapes our lives more than we realize. In a meta-analysis published in the Journal of Management, which analyzed 149 studies about the impact of core self-evaluations, the researchers concluded that people who score highly on these 4 dimensions have a more positive self-concept and believe in their abilities. They feel more in control of their environment, are more optimistic, make better decisions, are more satisfied in life, work better with others, and can manage unexpected challenges. They also make more money regardless of whether they start out with a privileged or underprivileged upbringing. Why? Well, one big part of it, as demonstrated by the researchers, is that rating highly on these dimensions means you capitalize on opportunities. You notice what others miss and proactively take action. You put yourself into a positive spiral where rewards multiply over the years. And if you can increase your baseline for each of the 4 A's, the 4 legs of your table of unshakable determination, you will have the most solid foundation upon which to manifest your will and reach your highest potential. For the rest of this lesson, we'll spend time diving into the first leg, acceptance. And the following 3 lessons will dive into each of the others. Let's start by exploring the first dimension in more detail. But before we do, let's meet Pedro. Pedro was a member of Faisal's Men's Gathering, which was an empowering space for men to come together, share and support each other's growth. Pedro had a rare genetic condition that meant he was unable to sweat. It gave him a noticeably odd appearance, the inability to perspire, and it was clear to the men's group that Pedro was extremely self-conscious about his looks, and that this was the number one thing holding him back in life. Now, Pedro was also an intriguing guy, somewhat of a pioneer. He was one of the first people Faisal came across to get excited about things like podcasts and virtual reality, well before they were in vogue. As a software developer, he was able to identify and predict trends and to capitalize on them. He was also approachable, easygoing, and adventurous, a great salsa dancer and kite surfer. During one pivotal men's group session, Pedro felt ready to open up for support, and this led to a transformative epiphany. For the first time, he recognized that he is a very interesting person with beautiful qualities. Pedro was comfortable in his skin. He was no longer self-conscious. Self-acceptance helped him to fundamentally shift his perspective about his physical flaw and instead embrace it as a core part of his intriguing identity. Life took on a whole new dimension for Pedro, and he never looked back. This is the power of acceptance, believing in our inherent worthiness and accepting all that we are, feeling that we are enough. Why is it that so many of us don't accept who we are? Why do we feel unworthy? For many, our sense of self was shaped in the earliest years of our lives based on the relationship with our primary caregiver. If we had an unhappy childhood where our emotional needs were neglected or where we were criticized, we developed a low self-esteem. We felt unworthy of love and attention, which then persisted into adulthood. Now, you could have also had a highly nurturing upbringing, yet you performed poorly academically at school or experienced early bullying, resulting in a lack of self-acceptance. It could even be a result of ongoing stressful life events, including relationship breakdown or financial troubles, poor treatment from a loved one, usually a romantic partner, or being in an abusive relationship, or even ongoing medical problems like what Pedro had, which can lead you to feelings of resentment towards the self because of your condition. What does lack of acceptance look like at work? In professional environments, lack of self-acceptance can make you defensive when given feedback, or even make you completely shut down because you take it personally. Or you could become overly compliant with rules and procedures to avoid the disapproval of others. It could lead you to avoid failure and seek the validation of others for external acceptance, and could even lead you to rebel as a way to feel more in control. How does it manifest in relationships? Lack of acceptance can lead to codependency, a fear of abandonment, or even such a strong fear of rejection that you sabotage relationships before they really begin. You might have a loud protector or neglector deceiver up here and in here. You might attract partners with narcissistic tendencies who constantly take, and you constantly give because you feel unworthy of having needs. You're also more likely to experience emotional trauma from these relationships. Why does this happen? Fundamentally, it's because of self-doubt. We doubt our worthiness. We doubt our value. We doubt that we matter. And this feeling of not mattering means our foundation is weak. Our table of core self-evaluations is easily shaken. So how do you cultivate self-acceptance? How do you cultivate a sense of mattering? We're going to first caveat this by saying that some people work with therapists for decades to heal their emotional wounds and develop a sense of acceptance. So what we'll share here isn't a magic pill. The fact is, there are no magic pills when it comes to this sort of inner work. It's a long game. What we are going to share is one powerful practice that can help you reconnect with your true identity and discover your innate value through the power of self-compassion. To truly accept ourselves, we need to have compassion for ourselves. And importantly, acceptance doesn't mean that we stop growing. It means the opposite. We acknowledge and accept everything that we currently are so we can become empowered to continue on our journey of development. Self-compassion may sound fluffy, but it's rooted in science, specifically the globally recognized pioneer in this space, Kristin Neff's research. There are 3 constructs we need to know about. The first is kindness. This requires you to understand your difficulties and be kind and warm in the face of failure or setbacks, rather than allowing an inner deceiver to be harshly judgmental and self-critical. The second is common humanity. You need to see your experiences as part of the human condition rather than as personal, isolating, and shaming. And the third is mindful acceptance. This involves mindful awareness and acceptance of painful thoughts and feelings rather than over-identifying with them. So how do we put this into practice? Here is what we invite you to do. In your action book, work through these 3 steps. Step 1, think back to a situation where you experienced self-doubt in your life, feeling inadequate, ashamed, insecure, or not enough. See it clearly in your mind. Step 2, write down and describe what you feel by reliving this experience of self-doubt. Do you feel ashamed, frustrated, embarrassed? How do you experience it in and on your body? Capture it all, be as raw as possible. Step 3, on the next page, you'll see space for you to write a letter to yourself, focused on the 3 constructs of kindness, common humanity, and acceptance for the experience you had, what you faced, and what you felt. As you write, here are some pointers. Kindness. Write what you might say to a loved one who is experiencing these things. What would you tell a friend or someone you care for? Common humanity. Remind yourself that everyone experiences self-doubt. It's entirely human, and no one is without flaws. Think about others who may be going through something similar in their own way on their own journey. Mindful acceptance. Remember not to over-identify with whatever emotion you're experiencing. Notice it, observe it, capture it, but remind yourself you are not the emotion. While remaining compassionate, ask yourself whether there might be things you can do to help you cope in a healthier way if you experience this again in future. What changes could you make in your life so that you're more confident and so you don't experience these feelings? At the end, write that you accept who you are, what you've been through, and what you will go through. Take ownership of it all, embrace it all, and commit to your growth, which may feel uncomfortable, even painful sometimes, but know that you will get through. If you'd like to, pause this video now and take a moment to write this letter. You can go somewhere where you feel calm, safe, and relaxed. Step 4, after writing the letter, go do something else for at least 24 hours. Return to the letter tomorrow and read it again. Capture anything you've missed. Then, in future, whenever you're experiencing self-doubt in a similar situation, return to this letter and read it. Remind yourself that you got through it the last time and you will get through it again. This becomes your conscious reminder to be more self-compassionate. Why is this practice so powerful? Well, when you're self-critical and listening to an inner deceiver up here, it has a detrimental effect on your body, activating the threat system, flooding you with cortisol and sabotaging you from thinking clearly. On the other hand, self-compassion manifests completely differently in the brain and body. It helps you become a self-soother and tap into what's called the mammalian caregiving system, increasing oxytocin, which helps promote feelings of calm, safety, and connectedness. It increases the flexibility of how you react with the environment, helping you see your world as safe and non-threatening. Studies have shown that this specific self-compassion practice of writing yourself a letter lowers symptoms of depression and increases happiness, general compassion, and motivation for growth. So what does this mean for your future? When you develop self-compassion, you develop genuine concern for your well-being. You learn to be sensitive, sympathetic, and tolerant of your distress, and develop a deep understanding and empathy for where it comes from. When it comes to setbacks or failure, you accept, acknowledge, and are compassionate to the disappointment and fear associated. And you learn to accept and work with that fear and discomfort. You're accepting who you are and embracing your inherent worthiness. This is an essential building block towards reaching a state of feeling unshakable in your self-determination to achieve your life goals and face the inevitable obstacles on the way. Whenever you need the reminder, repeat this self-validating statement to yourself. I accept the fear, I'm leaning into the friction, and I choose to grow from this experience. I am enough. Total acceptance of self, of who you are and what you've been through, and feeling worthy is the first of the 4 core self-evaluations, the first of the 4 A's, the first leg in your table of unshakable self-determination. The research is so compelling that we know with certainty that being deficient in just one of the 4 areas destabilizes the entire foundation of your table. Your determination will falter. They each are very important. So we invite you to really pay attention and give this the investment it deserves. In the next lesson, we move on to the second leg of the table, agency. Understanding how your beliefs about your ability to succeed have a direct bearing on what you achieve by influencing your resilience, how you respond to failure, and whether you persist when things get tough.